Wow, wee woo, wee woo. It's a brand new bonus episode of Jeremiah Wonders. Never done two in a week. Well, there you go. I hope you are liking the podcast. Give a like, leave a comment below. All that's appreciated. If you're listening on Apple Music or something, why don't you go on over and leave a review? I've got a very good friend on the show today, Stuart Thompson. He's got a debut stand-up album that he just released called Dandyman. That info is in the link below. We'll get to Stuart here in a second. If you haven't listened to the show in a while, maybe you've missed out on some episodes. Maybe you missed the Pete Holmes episode or the Bobby Lee or Eric Griffin or maybe Steve-O back in the day or Kevin Nealon. There's so many. Check it out on the Jeremiah Wonders YouTube channel. I love making the show for you guys. I'm going to try to be doing more bonus episodes soon. If you guys are into that, comment below if you are digging it. And thank you so much for the support. Without further ado, I want to get into this episode with my pal, Stuart Thompson. Yay! Yay! I'm here with Stuart Thompson in a virtual chat room right now. 90s style, early 2000s AIM, instant messenger. We're on the interwebs right now. This is my pal, Stuart Thompson. I'd like to welcome him to the show. He's got a brand new album out on all platforms called Dandyman. It is his debut stand-up comedy album. We've been friends for years through the Comedy Store, through the improv, through the open mic scene. He's from the Bay Area. Without further ado, my pal, Stuart Thompson, ladies and gentlemen.
Consummate host. I love it.
Yeah,
it's so nice to see you, Jeremiah, and thank you for having me.
Of course, dude. Thanks so much for doing this. And where are you at right now? First of all, where are you at?
Well, by the looks of my screen, I look like I'm like a field reporter about to interview someone in a nursing home who's actively dying of COVID.
Yeah, that looks good. It also looks like you took some people's high school photos and you're like, let me get one in on myself real quick.
You know what? I'm always the giver. You know what? Maybe I need to be the taker once in a while.
Every once in a while, dude.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, hey. Curtis, I need you to step to the left. It's my time to shine right now.
Yeah, I got like the pillars that I lean on. I put on the cap and gown.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, when did this guy, does he go here?
He's like a 9th year senior. It is. Yeah.
His mustache
full
is
beard.
Thick. It's thick. It's coming in very thick right now. It's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I am currently in Burbank. I moved here right as shelter in place was going into effect, and my building is one of those buildings that's very impersonal. It's like over 100 units, and I feel like my roommate and I are the only non-immigrant family in the building.
Yeah,
it's very much like a Soviet vibe that I'm feeling here.
Nice. I live next to Russians on the complex next to me, and nicest people, but I've seen my neighbor Alan flare up a couple times, and it is a sight to behold. Like, he is like just cussed out somebody who like was actually giving me crap. He like stood up for me and just started swearing this guy out, and I was like, Alan, there's a darkness inside you, and I like it.
Now, was he cursing people out in English, or did he revert to a different language?
He didn't get mad to the point where he reverted to his mother native language, because that's a different level of anger. Whenever you just start like talking so fast, where you revert to your original language.
Yeah, I had a Spanish teacher in middle school from Chile who we got along pretty well, she and I, but for as a class, she did not care for us. And so she would be like, you must do your homework. Puta madre, I can't right now. No puedo ahora. Just like, she was just like this tiny Chilean ball of hatred.
That's awesome. Yeah, I in my Spanish class in high school, my teacher was named Senora Lemons. Her actual last name was Lemons, like not like Lemons. It was like Lemons. Yeah. And I would always goof off in there, but like as long as I got laughs, I didn't get in trouble in that class. But like if I bombed, then she would reprimand me. So it was a very good training program, you know?
It's crazy you say that because Spanish was where I learned how to be funny in front of an audience early on. Because
Sure.
did you have to write dialogues in your Spanish class?
Yeah,
Like,
occasionally.
and perform them?
I even had to do some short films that I ended up doing in Spanish,
okay.
which were fun. Which I wish
Yeah.
I don't even know where those are. On some hard drive somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's some VHS tape.
Yeah.
Like a
There's an old
CD-ROM.
man underneath a blanket for some reason. Just like, no, it looks really nice. I've got all your films.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
You and your friends look supple, and it's like, all right, we gotta haul you away, bud.
Mucho bonito. Ah.
We had to do dialogues in front of our class, and we would figure out how to say like the basic stuff that we had to say, and then we would ask my teacher like dozens of questions how to say other stuff that we wanted to say, and we created like recurring characters, and we had what did we do? We had people like play like elderly. We really like tested my friends in my range as far as like acting was concerned. And we would always, if we knew if we were making our teacher laugh. If she was laughing, we were doing well. Like we would get a good grade, but our friends in our class were just like whoosh over their heads.
Yeah. You're like, you're not gonna pass this class as well as me. Mi hermanos, mis hermanos. How long, like, how are you almost fluent in Spanish, or like, what's your level of learning? Like, how far did you get with it?
I went all the way through AP Spanish, so it was 5.5 years between middle school and high school, and I tutor students in Spanish currently, and I have been for years.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't say I'm gonna teach you how to survive in like Bolivia on your own, but I will help you. Like if you're visiting a city, I can help you get around. I'll definitely help you pass your classes. When people hear my Spanish, they're like, "Oh, that's very grammatically correct." It's not like slang Spanish or
right. It's not like
some people might use.
Necessarily like, if you live somewhere after a while, you kind of pick up certain things where you're like, oh, okay, they don't quite say it like they're not using the usted form or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do try not to get hung up on the grammar, but that's just kind of how I'm wired. I'm wired to like see languages as like a math problem. It's like this plus this plus this gets you a sentence, and so I kind of see it that way. But I did have help with some of the slang. My buddy, I will say his name because it's my favorite name. He's one of those people who I think should have been a comedian but never did. His name is Carlos Yang.
I love that combo of a name already. Continue.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he grew up speaking Spanish at home because his father was from Peru and his mom was from Argentina. So he spoke it at home, and he would teach me a lot of slang that was wildly inappropriate to say in class, but great for when I played soccer and wanted to know what my opponents were saying about my teammates and me.
Oh, that's right. You played soccer for quite a while, right?
Yeah, I before COVID, I would still play like recreationally out here in LA. It's I kind of want to be like my dad and all his friends. Like they still play, but it's like much slower, and they just like they play until their legs don't work anymore.
Sure.
And so I kind of want to get about to that point. I still play. I'm not as good as I used to be.
Well, it's if you were as good as you used to be, then you wouldn't be doing stand up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would have the self-assurance of an accomplished human being in like a pro sport. But I remember going to tryouts one time after learning a little bit of Spanish, and this Latino kid who I knew from games in the league was talking to my white friend. He's like, Trevor was like, "Hey, what's up, Hector?" And he was like, "Hey, what's up, maricón?" And I was like, "Oh, Hector hates you, Trevor."
Yeah.
Hector
straight to your cara.
Yeah. A la cara, way.
A la cara.
Yeah, but it's
Welcome to two white guys talking a little bit of Spanish on Jeremiah Wonders.
welcome to Un Poquito.
Un poquito. On today's lesson, we'll teach you how to get beat up in English and Spanish.
Yeah, this is Poquito Menos, where we actually take a burrito from someone as opposed to make one for them.
I'm into it.
Yes.
So what position did you play when, I mean, you still play, but so what do you currently play? And did you have a different position before that? Because I played keeper for years, and then later on I played forward. What's that?
I was saying, did you? You have the framing for being a keeper.
Dude.
You've got that.
My
You've got the
wingspan, dude, is so wide. Like I can't even, like, because of the framing right now, I can't even show you how wide my wingspan is. But yeah, it was one of those things where I was notorious for blocking PKs, as you know, which is very difficult to do as a goalie. And you almost have
honestly, I think your improv training and your just propensity for like going with the flow might have been a real advantage to you when blocking penalty kicks, because penalty kicks, from a goalkeeper's perspective, is just about making a choice. Because, you know, for those listening and watching, you know, you're just taking a spot kick from 12 yards away from the goal, and there's no one in front of you except the keeper. And it's definitely to the advantage of the shooter. You know, the keeper, there's no real, I mean, there's pressure, sure, but like if you make the wrong choice, it's not really your fault. You had to make a choice.
Yeah.
But because I've seen you vibe with people so effortlessly in stand-up and on stage and hosting and everything else you do, I think you might have been able to vibe with the shooter in a way that you would go where the ball was supposed to go.
Yeah, because most of the time, like when I would watch soccer on TV with friends growing up, I would see, like, in the pros, they always, you know, they just make their decision on which side they're going to go to. You know what I mean? They, like, a lot of times they either they jump left or they jump right. Sometimes it's in the completely wrong direction. That happens a lot of times.
Yep.
But when at the skill level where I was at, I would wait. Like, I would literally wait down to the wire, like, until the ball, like, literally started, like, poking off of their toe, and that's when I'd make the decision. I wouldn't, like, just choose. I'd really, like, zone in, and
wow.
Yeah, it was you know, those were my premier days of soccer, Stuart, my glory days.
That's when he peaked.
Yep, pretty much for soccer. I played a lot of indoor soccer later on, though, which I really like indoor soccer.
Indoor's great. It's if you're not ready for it, it will destroy you.
Dude, eat you alive. If you don't have the wind for it, it is like you're ready to throw up, you're spinning, like it's crazy.
Yeah. It's easily like 2/3 the length of a regular game, but because it's usually off the wall, you can, you know, you never stop. Like, even though soccer is considered a sport where you never really stop, in indoor you truly cannot and will not stop. I played defense mostly growing up. I was left-footed, and I was not the kid who could run the fastest, but I was the kid who learned how to run the longest. So I would just kind of wait people out. And I loved being the guy, because like the forward was usually the guy who was more flashy. He had like bleached hair and a headband, even though his hair was short. And it's like, what sweat are you blocking, bro? And then he had like gold shoes, and his socks were taped up weird. And I loved crushing that guy's spirit. I loved it, because I was just kind of like this burly kid with like man legs and like a weeping willow of a torso. And
what a great description.
my hips end like right where my nipples begin. It's like there's no body.
My collarbone is my hip bone. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, I got to get a hip replaced. I tell you. So, yeah, I got a new hip. So yeah, I would play defense a lot, but now because I have typically in the rec games that I play with, it's like a bunch of like teachers and lawyers and a couple comics and me, and I'll kind of play wherever I'm needed, and oftentimes they'll put me at like center midfield, which ruins me for the rest of the week.
Oh well, yeah. I mean that's a lot of
Too
work
much
being
running.
a mid, having to go downfield, upfield, the whole thing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But we take care of ourselves. We don't we do the thing where we don't let people slide. It's
That's
like we all
good.
got to work Monday.
Yeah, we've got other things in our life now. We can't be slide tackling and yeah. My mom was one of those moms that was so concerned about if I did headers with the ball that I would get brain damage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like she hated any time I tried to do a header. And I really didn't have to do it too much until I started playing forward later. But like even in practice and stuff like that, my mom would freak out, being like, "No,
there's totally technique, but like I don't know if you were playing soccer during this time, but they came out with a line of headgear for a while that was designed for people to cushion the blow a little bit. But what I learned just from anatomy standpoint, like the part that you're supposed to hit it with, the front of your head, that's the part that is the thickest part of your skull.
Right.
So like
that's why people headbutt and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, man, I don't know why people headbutt. That shit's crazy. Man, I think it was 2006 World Cup when Zidane just headbutted, the Italian guy Materazzi just in the chest. I'm like, this is some like Steven Seagal level craziness.
Yeah, my brother once headbutted somebody who was kind of he was catcalling his wife at a club, and my brother and my wife don't even go to clubs. And maybe this is a reason why they don't go to clubs. But this guy like started kind of catcalling him, his wife, and then he was kind of like whatever about it, and he's kind of like, "Hey, this is my wife, like easy." And then that guy tried to start dancing with his wife, and they started like getting into it verbally, and he pushed my brother, and my brother went straight to headbutt.
What?
And then the guy hit him in the face. And
wow.
And my brother fell down, all while not spilling his drink.
Man.
Yeah, but he had this like a little shiner for like a couple of weeks.
Wow, your brother is the coolest dude. Because I picture, I don't know what your brother looks like exactly. I think I may have seen him at your wedding, but like if he's anything like you and your wife, and if his wife is like the three of you, I just feel like you would be like this quartet of like Mormons trying to get people to convert at the club.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden he just unleashes this rhinoceros, bighorn sheep move.
Yeah. I think there's a Watkins fury. I think there's something deep inside us that burns, that sometimes we get our switch flipped.
I don't know how many times this happens for you, but I remember seeing that flip. I think I saw it flip in you one time at the Comedy Store. I can't remember if you were hosting or if you were doing, it might have been early in your paid regular sets.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going up either like really early or really late, and you're such a kind person and you handle things so well, but like this person was interrupting the show twice and is like, all right, I've let you know twice. The third time, I will not be nice. Like you said it with like a smile and everything. And then it happened and I saw the switch and I was like, oh, he can do this. Like all of a sudden, like a red lightsaber just like, it's amazing when we see that happen in our peers, like when we know them to be one way and then they switch on us, not through any fault of their own, just, happenstance. And it was, I don't know, it kind of gave me more respect for you. Not that I didn't have I had a great amount of respect for your comedy, but to see the other dimension really pushed it over the edge from my point of view, seeing you handle that, it's like, oh no, he's not this crazy happy person all the time. He has this depth that goes somewhere I'd never seen.
Sure. There's a realness there that I think probably you probably could relate to a little bit more, rather than if I'm just being physical and silly 100% of the time on stage. You're like, okay, well, is this guy even a real person? And then you see me snap a little bit. You're like, oh, there's a real guy in there. He's just burying that guy. One of my
and I've gotten that too. Where people are like, hey, you don't drink, right, Stuart? And I'm like, no, I just, maybe I don't drink around you, but like.
yeah. I drink in a closet. It's fine. Don't worry about me.
I'm very closeted about my drinking, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you acknowledging that.
Absolutely, of course. That's something that you and I share in common. Is for years we both hosted at the Comedy Store, the potluck, and that's one of those thankless jobs where it's so fun to do, but it's also one of the most stressful gigs that you can even ask for.
Yeah, have you explained it on the show much?
Not really.
Potluck?
Not really. And there's a lot of fans or listeners, rather, of the show that they go to the Comedy Store or are fans of the Comedy Store. So I think that'd be interesting for them to kind of know what that is even like from our point of view, like being, so if you want to take that.
Sure. And fill in what, your experience, if I'm missing anything, but what Potluck is this, it's the new talent night at the Comedy Store where, it's an audition and it starts out with an open mic for the first hour, and the next 2 to 3 hours is people who are trying to become paid regulars but are not quite there. They call it friends and family. And afterwards, it's paid regulars working out basically until the end of the night. Sometimes, and by the end of the night, I mean 2 a.m. It starts at 7 p.m. and goes till 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 3 hosts throughout the night, and oftentimes you and I would be the first host. You started hosting like the second time, occasionally filling in for Fraser Smith, who is, a radio host here in LA, and in my opinion, one of the greatest hosts in comedy.
I agree 100%. LA legend as far as that goes. He hosts at all the major clubs. And when my wife's mother was actually visiting town, she grew up with Fraser on the radio. So when she got to meet him, she was like blown away, because he was literally like the Howard Stern of LA. Like people love, and they still love Fraser, but like it was one of those things where it was like a movement with him, like in the 80s, I believe.
That's so crazy. Your wife's mom grew up on him, because my mom grew up in Southern California and also grew up listening to Fraser Smith. And I told Fraser that, or I said it as I was introducing him, to pass off the mic for him to host for the latter half of the show. And he did not respond to it because I think I felt like I was aging him unintentionally.
Oh, and you were just trying to say a nice thing, like, hey, this is really cool, right?
I was just trying to show that, his multi-generational influence, and
sure.
But it was we still have a great relationship, and I have a lot of respect for him. But for that first part of the show,
so put a pin in that for a second. I have to tell you a quick Fraser story that goes along with you seeing me snap on stage. I've seen Fraser snap a couple times, and it's some of my favorite Comedy Store memories of all time, because Fraser, how happy-go-lucky he is. Like he literally tells, if you watch a 15-minute set, it's over 100 jokes. There's so many punchlines that are hitting the entire time.
He's training the crowd. Exactly.
He gets them in a rhythm, and then it's momentum, and then it just builds and builds and builds, and it's awesome to see. Basically, one night, he was trying to get into his rhythm, and a lady kept chiming in. And then this guy started chiming in. And he starts getting heckled every other joke now.
Oh, man.
And Fraser drops the snap for a second, and like his momentum, and he goes, I'm from Detroit, bitch. I'll cut you. I was in the back of the room looking around. There was only 1 or 2 other comedians in there, and I'm just dying laughing. I'm like, how how's like hardly anybody seeing this right now. This is like such a magical moment. I've never seen this before.
I need someone else to witness this with me.
Exactly. I was literally looking around for any other eyes of comedians. I could be like, did you just see what just happened? It was beautiful.
Yeah. Oh man, I wish I could have seen that. I got, when we get back to doing stand up live, whenever that happens, that is going to be one of my few like very clear goals outside of my own like career aspirations. Like I don't want to see Fraser struggle. I want to see him snap for a moment and handle this business in person.
Dude, it shut it down immediately, and then he kept killing the rest of his set. It was amazing because it was such a left turn from his act. People are like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then he's like, guys, come on. like just like right back into it. So
guys, we're having fun, right?
Yeah, we're having a good time here, guys. Like it was beautiful. Back to the first part of potluck, you were explaining like the different levels and stuff like that.
Yeah, so the part that we would often host is the open mic and the friends and family portion. So it ends up being anywhere from 3 to 4 hours of us hosting, with people going up and doing 3 to 5 minute sets, which is bonkers as a show concept if that was the whole show. That's easily 2, probably 3 shows in one.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not really, the only part that has some real structure is the open mic, because that list is not chosen for you. That is chosen sort of before the show starts. A bunch of people sign up. Now it's almost 200 people sign up every Monday.
It's gotten crazy. When we did it, it was probably somewhere in the low 100s, I would say, and now it's up to like 200.
Yeah. And everyone's just signing up for 16 3-minute spots, and that's your audition. And you did it, I did it, and if you hope you get a good response, or you catch the talent coordinator at a good time, they're not dealing with other stuff, and they can pay attention to your set. Maybe someone puts in a word for you, and so we would host that, and we'd get it going. And when I don't remember when you started hosting, or if you had started hosting before I was even at the store, but I started hosting in like around this time of year, 2012, so like 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the talent coordinator Tommy was like, I think you should start hosting now. I think you'd be good for it. And so like, okay. And
yeah, and that's exactly what Tommy sounds like, by the way. For the listeners who don't have any context, that's a spot on impression. So continue.
Thank you.
Yes,
I have a witness. And I just kind of run through it. I'd make a comment here and there, and then you just, the rest of it is just kind of chaos, because it's like a bunch of people, our friends, our peers, people who have been doing comedy longer than us, and who are all trying to vie for these other spots. And there at the time that I started hosting, there was really no guarantee who would go up. It was just like, create a show that is cohesive, that people will enjoy, that has ups, that peaks and valleys, and hope it works out.
Which that's the main difference from how they do it now, because basically when you and I were doing it, it was actually even harder on the host, because we had the power to make those decisions and be political if we wanted. It used to be 100% political. Now I've hosted that like a while ago. Since then, since like those days where you kind of had total control as the host, and you're given the list of employees, and now it's like you can't put up anybody else until you go through all the employees. When we did it, there would be some times where we couldn't even fit all the employees, because we're like, there's some other comics that need to get up, and then that would cause controversy and stuff, because that's like supposed to be one of their spots of the week, but also you're taking it's a whole thing. That's where it becomes political, where it's like, yeah, you work at the store, but there's this other dude who came in who is like a 15-year vet that crushes. I want to put him up over you, who's been working at the store for a year. So it's like all these political things that you kind of had to choose to either follow through and stand behind, or kind of crumble and be like, yeah, okay, you're right. Yeah, I'll put you up. So it was like this weird dynamic.
Yeah. I remember when I was first starting to work there, sometimes a host I'd check in with a host, and they'd be like, hey man, I just don't really see where I can fit you into the show tonight. And I'd be like, and it's like, there's a great way to figure that out, is to put me up. see where I fit in. But yeah, it was a crazy time, but it taught me how to host. It taught me how to use. I feel like this is a weird way to say it, but like use people to the best of their abilities the way I saw them.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And what, Stuart, I think what you're kind of explaining is there's different dynamics within a show, and sometimes you need a comic to do a certain thing at a certain time in the show. And when lineups are made, you'll even notice like, oh, okay, there's not a lot of times where two super high energy guys are following each other, because it's one of those things where use them for their skills in that energy department and put one here and then put one in the other part of the show, and maybe put like somebody who's a little bit more low energy maybe between them or not right next to them, so it doesn't dip real big and it's more of a build. There's like this, so many things that go into thought whenever you're making a lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really a true lesson in like, you know, who can I put together and create like a cohesive run of comedy? Like I would not put you, especially if I knew you were working on characters, right after someone I knew who also did voices, even if they didn't necessarily look like you
Exactly.
or sound like you. It'd be too much of the same thing. Just like I wouldn't put, you know, two people of like a really similar height one after another, unless they were like unabashedly different from each other.
Interesting. Even down to the physical appearance. That's an interesting thought as well.
Well, I mean, it was one of those things where I was like, I don't want to say that like crowds are, I don't think it's you know, the crowds would be like too naive to know the difference between the two comedians. I think crowds are smart in that if they feel like the show is going in a certain direction where they can kind of predict it because they can start to build a pattern, then they're like, well, I think we've had enough show. We kind of know where this is going. Maybe it's time for us to pack it up.
I'm gonna dip out right now. Yeah, I've seen where the rest of this night is going. I have an idea of. I don't have that FOMO anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, you guys enjoying the show? Give a like, leave a comment, leave a review on the audio platforms. It's all helpful, guys, with the YouTube's algorithms and all that stuff. Hope you're enjoying this bonus episode with Stewart Thompson. I put in the description link below a link to his stand-up comedy album. Check it out. Give it a listen. If you got Spotify, I believe it's free. Who knows? I could just be making that up. Email the show, jeremiahwonders@gmail.com, with any questions, concerns, maybe some guests that you want to hear from. I'll try to get them on the show. Maybe send me a kindness challenge letter. Haven't done that segment in a bit. I'm here for you guys. I love displaying listener art on my Instagram profile and also on YouTube in the different various forms. So if you are an artist listening to the show, send me maybe something that has to do with this episode of Stewart and myself, or just of myself on Jeremiah Wonders or Kill Tony, however you know about me. I appreciate the support that you guys give this show. And without further ado, let's get back into this episode with Stewart Thompson.
I would say that the one thing that hosting potluck did teach me is how to be a host anywhere, because there is no harder show to host than that show. That is the biggest lesson I got.
Yeah. You learn a lot, and it's one of those things where, you know, you take that knowledge and then you go and create your own thing sometimes. Mm-hmm. And that's what you did with Luke Schwartz, and you guys have run an amazing show at the Improv for years that yes. I've had the pleasure of performing on, and it's a good,
in many respects.
Yeah.
We had you on for stand up, and we had you and Pat play music together, and you guys would what I loved about you guys is you always added to the show, and Luke and I were always about we wanted our lineups to have like a variety of voices, but you know, we always wanted people who added to the show and kind of built on the odd premise that we were creating, which was this very low budget, you know, late night talk show that had all the variety elements, but you know, all of the chaos of just like a regular stand-up show.
Yeah.
You know, it's for those who haven't seen it or heard it, you know, it's the late night show with Stuart and Luke, and we would have it's basically like watching Conan, but if Andy Richter did not like Conan at all.
Your dynamic with Luke is very funny, and it's like a very like you guys are obviously very close friends, but it's one of those things where as an audience member it's very fun to watch that dynamic because Luke is constantly kind of ribbing you, and you're like, well, we have a show to get to, so let's be professional about this.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to run an honest show, and Luke will interrupt me. And I love Luke very much. He is. I call him my bitter half. And
hello.
Yes. There's some wild stuff.
Bringing out the Carson, bringing out the Stephen Brody Stevens. I love it.
I love doing. I love doing both of those. My girlfriend loves it when I do Dirty Johnny Carson.
I'd love to hear that. What does Dirty Johnny Carson sound like?
So I just got back from the clinic. It was a free clinic, and wow. Turns out my pubes can dance.
Be your head for that.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Very. So you be sober, Ed, and I'll be I'll be Dirty Johnny Carson.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I love doing Brody. It's my way of allowing him to like continue to. It's letting him live through me in a way.
Sure, man. I around Maya and around just like even myself whatever, like I still hear his voice all the time, and I'll even make Instagram videos as his voice just because it's something that I used to love watching his periscopes and his Instagram stories so much that it's one of those things where I'm like, this is just a good way to keep that positivity going. Yes.
Yeah, and I loved every dimension of Brody there because I got to watch him all the time as I know you did at the store. He would close out these shows and do an hour and a half after the people had already seen 3-4 hours of show, and he'd be drumming and being indignant with the crowd and the management of the club. Just like, how dare you? You don't do that to me. Just like, and it's like, no one's doing anything to you. We're just letting you know that it's 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I would love when you or Luke would occasionally like yell something from working the door, and he's like, yes. Great, the door guy's going after me now.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes he would get he would turn on us too, and that would be fun to watch. And then sometimes he would give us shout outs, just like, Stewart, he was in the marching band at UC Berkeley. He gets it.
By the way, what did you play in the marching band?
I played the trumpet.
Trumpet.
Mm-hmm.
Heck yeah.
Thanks, man.
Do you still play?
I haven't played in a long time. I tried to. The last time I played was for a stand-up show. I was playing a character. Do you know the show Sábado Gigante con Don Francisco? It was like a Telemundo Univision show.
No.
So my girlfriend is Latina, and she had a podcast with 2 other Latina comedians, and they wanted to create a live show where they kind of had a theme about this show that they loved. It was kind of like SNL, but also kind of the Today Show, but for a Latin American audience and Spanish-speaking audience. And the host of it was this guy named Don Francisco, and they'd have people come on and like sing songs, like kind of like American Idol. And then some of them would get like rounds of applause if they sang well. And then some of them, if they sang poorly, they would get El Chacal, which was this guy who looked kind of like a ghost in a way. Like he had this really like flowing black robe and this like oddly pointy, head covering. And he would play the trumpet, and he'd like play these people off like the Sandman at the Apollo. And so they asked me if I would play El Chacal. And so I brought out my rickety ass trumpet and managed to play a little bit of stuff for them. But I would, when I watch you get back into playing saxophone and integrating it into your comedy, especially with Kill Tony and everything, I had this, I did get a bit of a yearning for my trumpet playing days because I played for about 12 years through college. And
Yeah.
when I moved to LA, which was right after college, I kind of set it aside. Like, this is not me right now. I need to focus on this aspect of my art. But there was no real reason for me to limit that.
Sure. Yeah. It's one of those things where Jesse Johnson brought it up to me. She's now in the Kill Tony band, and it was one of those
cool.
things where she, by basically just seeing that it was even possible to include an instrument that was not a typical guitar or piano, that it gave her a little bit more of a nudge to like, oh, I can do this. And now, like, with her stand-up show, she does bits like with her trumpet, like she'll do one-liners and some characters and stuff like that, and it's pretty cool to see. So yeah, it's always great. I mean, my inspiration was, of course, Steve Martin. The banjo is not a typical comedy instrument whatsoever.
No, it is not.
So I was like, okay, saxophone, let's freaking go.
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Yeah, I thought about bringing my trumpet onto stage with me, leaving it by the side, doing my act, never acknowledging the trumpet, and then just taking it with me off stage. But I've also thought about playing it, just being like trying to become like the Satchmo of comedy.
Dude, I'd love to see that.
Yeah. just play a sweet tune and just be like, two Jews walk into a bar.
How Jew were they?
I've been waiting for the perfect opportunity to use that, and that was the one. That was the moment right there, Stuart. How Jew were they?
That feels like a show that was on like after your show of shows.
Dude, 100%.
How
100%.
Jew were they?
How Jew were they?
Yeah, with like an audience the size of AGT, just like, how Jew were they?
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Like they weren't that Jewish, and everyone's like, boo!
Boo!
We wish
like
they were
that.
more so.
We're into that. We like that around here.
Embrace your culture. Embrace your culture.
Wow, this is at first, I was taken aback by the name of this show, but it's actually way more progressive than I thought.
Yeah.
Like you get more points the more that you're leaning into your culture on the show. It's like, yeah, we're into that.
Yeah. Everyone wears a yarmulke. That's part of it, damn it. Yeah.
Dude, so I want to talk about this before we get into the final segment of the show called Sax Talk, a listener favorite. But you recorded a stand-up album. It's your debut album, and I want you to tell the listeners about that and the viewers, and where did you record it, and just give some more info on it.
Okay, great. The album is called Dandyman. I recorded it in San Francisco at a independent venue called The Setup in the Tenderloin.
Awesome venue. Richard Savarte, right?
Yeah.
He's
Richard and Sarvate and Abhay Nadkarni run it.
Yeah,
and they,
great dudes.
They were kind of give me a night, and I brought Luke up with me. I brought my girlfriend Anna up with me. They opened the show tremendously. We just about sold it out, and we recorded it miraculously in early February, right before all this COVID stuff was under our skin and in our consciousness. It was like, I remember it not even being a thing when we recorded it.
Of course.
And then a month later we were like, okay, where are we gonna hole up for however long? It was
remarkable. You got to be super grateful for the timing of that to actually get that in and make that happen before everything goes, because it's one of those things where even let's say you're running that amount of time places, it's one of those things where let's say you didn't record and you had to record after, are you going to have the same passion or even the same skill that you did when you were running it all the time like that? It takes a long time to get jokes flowing and the performance to be at a place where you're like, I'm ready to release this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like anything. If you want to get good at it, you got to do it all the time. And I was lucky to have a really nice run up over the previous 6 months leading up to it. So I got to do a lot of long sets all over the country, and I'm so grateful to anyone who let me on their stage over that period of time, and before, of course, because it all adds up. But yeah, and I was able to put it out with this independent label called Radland Records, and yeah, it was one of those beautiful things that really came together in a way that I'm super proud of, and I really hope people get to hear it and enjoy it, especially during this time when there might not be a lot of new entertainment available to people.
And that's where can people get that exactly, Stuart?
Sure, it's available everywhere you get albums. The main places they're available are Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Pandora, Tidal, YouTube, but it's also on like Google Play and TikTok, and anywhere you can get an album, you can find it. Just look up Stuart Thompson.
I'll put a link in the description of the YouTube video where it goes, so people can easily click on it there.
That's amazing. Thank you, man.
Of course.
I'm just excited for people to listen to it. However they choose to listen, I'm okay with. It brought me a lot of joy, putting together this material, and a first album is such an introduction to the public.
I know, man, and yeah, I'm proud of you for doing it, man. Like I have yet to release my my debut stand-up album. I have been doing some music stuff here and there, but it's one of those things where it's quite the accomplishment, and it's been something that you've been honing these last 11 years. So I implore people to check it out, man.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Let's round it out with the final segment. It's called Sax Talk.
Sax Talk.
Oh, Sax Talk. All right, Stuart. Yeah. Yes. So if you would, I'd like for you to share a story of a sexual encounter. It can be as innocent or as graphic as you would like. And I will basically follow you along with this sweet, sweet saxophone. So let me know when you're ready, and I will start following you along.
Okay. All right. Okay. I think I got one for you.
Heck yeah.
All right, folks. The scene is La Jolla, California. The part of San Diego that you're okay with hanging out in for longer than 25 minutes. There's not as many drunks there to tell you which burrito filled with potatoes is the best. And I'm at the La Jolla Comedy Store, right there in the heart of La Jolla, the only comedy club right next to a Ferrari dealership. I'm performing, and I'm really killing it. I don't toot my own horn, but I am killing it. I'm having a great set. It's the first show of the weekend. Usually the first show, I'm dusting the rust off. I'm getting my rhythm going. But this one, I needed no dusting. I was feeling it. And after I get off stage, I get some time to relax, and after the show, people come and say hi. Sometimes they want to say hi to a comedian. And one woman came up to me, and she was, on a scale of 1 to 10, she was a lady. And before I even spoke to her, I could tell that she wanted something from me. I was recently single and, not ambitious enough to really seek out women on my own. So I was ready to, indulge what this woman wanted. So she comes up to me and she says, "Hey, I don't know if you're interested, but my friend and I would like to have sex with you." Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've never been asked that question before. Not in real life. I've never even heard that in a porno. I don't watch a lot of porn, but, you know, I'm sure you could get that from looking at me. And ever the charming man I am, but also a businessman, I said, you know what, that sounds mighty interesting, Miss Lady. But I have another show I got to do. Maybe I could get your number and we could I could hit you up after I'm done with my second set tonight. She seemed amenable to the terms of our agreement, and I got her number. And the next show, I was supposed to do 20 minutes in front of a hot Friday night crowd. At 16 minutes, one of the door guys in the back of the room told me, it's time to wrap it up. At 16 minutes and 1 second, I'm like, thank you, good night, everybody. At 16 minutes and 2 seconds, I am off stage texting this girl. And I asked her, hey, you and your friend still up to having sex with me? And she said, hey, you know what? My friend's kind of tired, and she's going home. But as the old saying goes, even if one person drops out, there's still two of you. Let's just say we had a reason the next morning to eat one of those burritos full of potatoes. Yeah, we had sex. It was pretty cool.
Mission accomplished. One of the songs that I was playing, I was a little squeaky. I need to wet the reed a little bit. But one of the songs that I was playing is if you first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. You can try again. I don't know if the listeners picked up on that, but that was one of the songs that I was playing. Dude, that's awesome. That's one of those things where I thought that Stewart was going to get a threesome in this story. I really did. But still, sex after a show is amazing. I can imagine. It's never happened to me, but I just nodded. I just nodded.
I mean, you're in a wonderful relationship that you've been in for a long time, and I'm everyone else is aspiring to that, but until then, the rest of the community is gonna get it that way.
Let's just say I've turned down some people in my time, if you know what I'm saying. Also, the La Jolla Comedy Store. This lady gave me her business card once, and she said she wanted to book me for a corporate gig. Stewart, I hit her up for the corporate gig. The text starts going astray, and I'm like, what about that gig? There was no gig.
Yeah. More like a corporeal gig, if you know what I mean.
Whoa! Finger blast. I don't know why I said that. Yay!
We're touching bodies, buddy.
Hello! Boing, 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 boing. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, man. It's not I can't say it's like an oft occurrence or has been, because I've been in a relationship for a long time as well. But I will say that the few times it has happened, it is like I've been trying to get this validation from within, but when it comes from without, woo, it feels nice.
Oh, keep riding that wave. That's good.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, you play great. I feel like that really added to that story. I felt like that really sold it.
It adds some sexual energy. It really does,
Yes.
man. It gives it that a little extra oomph. It's basically like, there wasn't that extra woman in the room with you that night, but old Jeremiah was in the corner playing that sax, guiding your hips and pushing your buttocks farther into her. That's what the sax does.
You're playing like, this is not the corporate gig I signed up for.
Yeah, this is smellier. a lot more smells in here.
Yeah, it's so humid. I don't need to wet the reed. You know what I
mean? Dude, it's been awesome catching up with you, brother. Like I said, check out Stuart's new album on all platforms. The link will be in the description. And is there anything else you'd like to leave the viewers and listeners with before we sign off?
I just want to say thank you so much for having me, man. And if you enjoy the album, shoot me a note. Let me know what you think. And if they want to listen to the podcast, because we're doing it just as a podcast right now, it's at the L8 Night Show on Twitter and Instagram for updates.
Awesome. And what's your Instagram and Twitter so people can follow you there as well?
It's at Stewart B. Thompson, and it's Stewart with a U.
Awesome. Check out Stuart's stuff. Reach out to him on social media. I always love when the listeners and viewers reach out to the guests on this podcast and give them some positivity and send them their way. Love you, brother, and hope to see you soon when all this craziness calms down.
Yeah, same here, man. Always good to see you, and hopefully we'll see each other soon.
Absolutely.
Jeremiah Wonders, Jeremiah Wonders, Jeremiah.